we'll make this a recorded session available after the meeting. So if you don't get a chance to see this live or want to review it again with colleagues, you'll have the option to. So over to you, Arjan, for our introductions.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. So welcome everyone to this QTI 3 session. In today's session, we will not only talk about QTI 3 and its very, very impressive documentation, we will also give live demonstrations using QTI. So my name is Arjan, and in today's session we have 3 more presenters. There's Padraig from HMH, Paul from Pearson, and Julien from OAT. Yep, next slide. Yeah, here's the session's agenda. First, Julien will go into QTI 3 features, documentations, and conformance. Next, Paul showing elevated accessibility and new QTI features. And both Padraig and Julien will give an interoperability demonstration, exchanging assessment or assessment content between 4 assessment systems. And finally, we will end the session with the Q&A. So, Julien, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Arjan. Okay, so I'm going through the slides we have here. First, a question: why do we need a new version of QTI? We have faced some inconsistencies, some improvement from some room for improvement in the interoperability of QTI, and also about the accessibility to include everyone. And we worked a lot on making everyone adopt the QTI standard by improving the documentation and the validation process. Okay, first, to improve the interoperability, we implemented some shared vocabularies for the delivery level about presentation and behaviors. We also completed support for ARIA and WCAG guidelines. Also, we included some more support for the web component markup. Of course, QTI interoperability is not the only one we need to think about. We have connections and synergies with LTI, with other standards, Caliper, PNP, and so. And for this, we thought about more documentation, documenting LTI use cases, more connection with Caliper, and also the PNP as a central part of the QTI elevated accessibility. Also, PCI is going native in QTI 3 for best portability of any TI in the delivery. And also, CAT protocols are now natively supported in QTI 3. Accessibility is a key point in QTI 3. It's now in the heart of it. And for this, access for all, we tackled some limitations of QTI 2.2 and APIP. So PNP is now a key part of QTI 3. It's ranging from accessibility, from authoring to delivery and reporting also. We have support for PNP, for catalogs, and also we enhanced accessibility. We also worked on the result reporting. Yeah, sorry. Okay. We also worked on the result reporting and also the case integrations so that the outcome of tests would be more close to what we can communicate to different other standards. About the adoption, we expanded the documentation with a new beginner's guide, with best practice implementation guide, and with a lot of examples, a lot of references and renderings for the different interaction types. Also, a lot of hints for the way the rendering should look like across different platforms, and a lot of samples and about the different parts, being the test definitions, test and item definitions, the data usage, the result reporting, and so. About the validation, we have an improved validation process. We improved also the acceptance criteria, and a better tool set for all this process. And today, I think we already have a couple of certified products today. Here are some resources about QTI specification and the certification, and I think that would be it for the slide. I think we're back to, I will stop sharing my screen. And Paul, I think it's up to you.
Great, thanks. I need to take myself off of mute. So I'm Paul Grudnitski with Pearson School Assessments and one of the 4 co-chairs on this new specification. And as Julien was saying, you know, we've one of the criticisms, I think, or one of the criticisms of prior versions of QTI was that it was not specific enough when it comes to rendering, and it leads to certain problems with interoperability. So we've written hundreds and hundreds of pages of documentation about best practices, and have actual examples that are built into the conformance certification process. And so on my screen, can you see my screen? Yeah. In the best practices implementation guide, sometimes known as the BPIG, we have examples here. For example, on a text entry interaction, the introduction of a so-called shared vocabulary. So a best practice for how to describe something as simple as, okay, if it's a text entry interaction, how wide should it be? Something like that, to help authoring systems and delivery platforms implement a common rendering behavior. So in this case, we have many ways of specifying the width of the text entry interaction, or you know, how to specify certain things in a hotspot interaction. And there's shared vocabulary for that as well. So anyway, there's a lot of documentation, and so with now we can be more specific and more prescriptive about how we want things to appear, and so far this is starting to be proving to be quite effective. And I just wanted to now share with you some examples of how we've taken content from Smarter Balanced. So there's the Smarter Balanced consortium, and they have been producing content in a somewhat proprietary format. And over the last couple of years, they've made a commitment to support QTI 3. And Pearson has already taken all of their content and converted it to QTI 3. And so now let's just take a quick look at how expressive this can be. Let me get rid of this. So these are items that are taken from the Smarter Balanced Interim Readiness Package. So these are real Smarter Balanced practice test items. And we have a test here where, well, we, again, just to reiterate, there are some who are saying, well, QTI is not expressive enough. Well, that wasn't really true, but now we have good examples of how we can, include MathML or all kinds of expressive HTML5 formatting. So HTML5 is natively supported in QTI 3, as is ARIA, as is MathML, and other HTML derivatives. Another thing that was, let's see. Another thing that was kind of lacking in QTI 2 was the ability to define item layouts. So there are many delivery platforms and authoring systems that want to implement things like 2-column items, where you have a stimulus on the left and a set of interactions on the right. And so in this case, in QTI 3, we can, let me get this out of the way. So we have a stimulus here that's shared by a set of items here, and now we're just defining, for example, that we want the left column to be 40% of the screen and the right column to be 60%. And so we can just, this is the same item, but it's just with different layouts. So this is a 50-50 layout, and this is a 60-40 layout, and this is actually more of a 70-30 layout. So with QTI 3, you can be prescriptive about how you want to do item layouts and with varying column widths. Now I wanted to also, as Julien was saying, a lot of work has been done with accessibility. So APIP, Accessible Portable Information Profile, APIP was a good start. And QTI 3, well, APIP has a couple of important, some would say fatal flaws. And one of them is that you cannot have HTML inside of an APIP structure. So QTI 3 fixes that. And so we've introduced this new structure called the catalog. And in a catalog, you can have HTML or plain text or file pointers. And this allows you to be much more expressive and put things into your items that assistive technology will read. So assistive technology knows how to deal with HTML. And so with the introduction of HTML in the catalog structure, this solves a lot of problems for us and for assistive technology as well. So in this test, I've got, this is a collection of mathematics items from Smarter Balanced. And by default, let's go into this test. By default, something like a glossary is considered to be a universal support. So by default, we have a glossary here that's turned on for this math accessibility, this math item. However, as I said, usually one support is not the only thing that's required. So we might want to, in this case, let's say we want to turn on, let's see, keyword translations. So I'm going to turn on, I don't know, let's turn on Punjabi. And now in this item, we have a lot more information that's now highlighted as part of a glossary. So we have these Punjabi voicings of the glossary term recommendations. And because this is because HTML is supported now, we can put much more sophisticated sorts of supports. In fact, we have 2 different audio recordings, and yeah, it's much more expressive. If we have a term like local, we can actually now, which has an English glossary and the Punjabi glossary, we can represent these things in the same panel, which is support that some may need. So I can turn off glossary, turn on keyword translation, and show either or in the same panel, and make this much more interoperable, because all of these things are properly documented and categorized in the best practices implementation guide about how you might want to, about how you should do this. Then the last thing I want to mention here on the accessibility, let me refresh this one more time. So then there's also the ability, so one of the problems with APIP was you couldn't extend it easily. And now with the catalog and the QTI 3 catalog, you can do that. So if you're an organization like Smarter Balanced that provides a custom support called Illustrated Glossary, let me turn that on. So we have Illustrated Glossary on, and let me turn on, what was it? Keyword translations again. Let's go with Punjabi again. So an illustrated glossary is not a common PNP support, but it is a custom support provided by Smarter Balanced in their content. So now under, oh, wait. Yeah, so in this case, the term skate park doesn't have, there's no glossary for it, but there is a keyword translation and an illustrated glossary. So same thing for the term survey. So there is no English glossary for this, but there is a keyword translation and this image for a survey. So this is an example of how one can take a standard, you can encode standard PNP supports, but then also extend the catalog to do something that's specifically required by certain states to support their English, well, to support better improved literacy. I think, it's probably time for me, is it time for me to hand this off back to Julien? Yes?
Yep.
Let me stop sharing.
Okay. I'm going to demonstrate some interoperability between different platforms and systems. Let me share my screen again. Sure. Okay. This is an item with some layouts. For example, 2/3, 1/3, 2 columns layout, as Paul mentioned before. I'm gonna do some small tweaking here, adding a class so that we can see that we can include some custom CSS, some shared vocabularies, and yeah, I'm gonna add a style sheet that I prepared before. That's the one. Okay, the style sheet just changed the bold text into pink to fit with the Beatles. And this caption, pictured caption, is now centered. Okay, I'm just gonna export this and send it to Padraig for the continuation. QTI 3, export. Okay, and I should, hello, sorry, here it is, that's the package. looks like I cannot integrate it. Yes, it is. Okay, and then sign it. And I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and give that to Padraig now.
Hi, so I'll start sharing now. Screen. Okay, so just extracted that package. So if I pick that package and I import it, first it fully validates the package to make sure there's no errors or schema issues with it. So then I can load that package in. Sorry. And then you can see the changes that Julien just made are reflected in the content. So this is the package that's just been exchanged between Tau and HMH. And then I've got another example here where we have some content which was created for the Dutch exam board. And this is content then that Cito exported in QTI 3 format. So I have that package already on my system. So I'm just going to import that as well. So again, this is doing full validation of the content and showing you the breakdown and structure of the content imported. So now it's live in the system, and you can see the rendering is pretty much the same between the Dutch exam board facet system and the HMH system. So we can look at the different items. And they basically have the same look and feel. So the same layout. So this sort of layout would never have been possible in QTI 2.2. But it means that we can have we can have better rendering. So you can hear me? I think it mic there. Am I back?
You're there. Good.
Yeah, okay, good. So you can see we've got a much more consistent rendering between items on the two different systems. So let's take a more visual one. So then as well, if I take this package, this one? So I can export that package. So I've got that locally now. So I can then go to system like Pearson's and TestNav. So this is a demonstration system that Pearson kindly made available. And import it. So it's going to again be imported into Pearson's TestNav that Paul was showing earlier. And you'll be able to see then that the content is rendered in pretty much the same way. So we've shown content import and exchange between multiple different content and delivery systems. So I get to the right package. So this, as you can see, is the same test that we looked at earlier. So if I proceed through the item, again, it looks the same as we saw before. So that sort of ease of import and exchange of more complex layouts is totally new to QTI 3. And also there's a lot more control over the end rendering that clients see, because there's the whole set of shared CSS vocabulary and shared item vocabulary that define the actual layouts to use for interactions, as well as for the CSS for the HTML of the page. So I think that's it from me. So I hand back to, is it Mark for questions?
Yeah, welcome. Any questions folks might have with the things that you've seen, or if you have, anything specific that you didn't see that you'd like to know more about QTI? Does anyone have any questions? Feel free to turn your microphone on and speak it, or type it into the chat.
Well, I don't have a question, but I just wanted to say I hadn't seen I hadn't seen the interoperability demo with between Cito and HMH and Tau, and that was, for me, was the first time I'd seen that. So that's fantastic. Wow. I mean,
Thank you, Paul.
those of us who have been working on this know how much work has gone into making that happen. Wow.
We managed to surprise Paul and make him speechless.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is, for those that aren't aware, the QTI 3 work has been underway for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, and we've gone through some scope changes during that intentionally to address some of these issues that we felt would be important with a new significant spec like QTI 3. And we do have a certification process in place now. Pearson and HMH have completed that for QTI 3 at the level 1. Pearson has also completed it at level 2. So, and I think HMH is really close to the level 2 also. So we plan with this in the future to have probably in the next, we'll probably push it off till January, but we plan to do an in-depth webinar like this around the certification process, so you can see in real life what that looks like, and how a system is tested in the rigorous sense of our certification instructions and the test samples that you use to complete and demonstrate that you have implemented QTI properly. So we didn't have enough time today in just a half hour to cover all of, just kind of an overview of QTI 3 and then details around the certification. So look forward to some more detail and some more information about QTI 3 and the certification process specifically in the coming months.
Hey, Mark, just want to say, you mentioned there about the levels. I think it's probably worth mentioning because it's actually huge for HMH, because we're a big vendor of QTI content. We've got hundreds of QTI packages that we can sell. But one issue for us has been the level to which QTI is supported across different delivery systems. So having these very specific bars where we know we can author content to QTI level 1 and it's going to be rendered correctly and work on all systems that are level 1 conformant, and then also know that we can have more complex packages with a greater variety of interaction types, and know that they'll work on all level 2 systems, is huge leveling of the interoperability landscape. That's huge for publishers like us that rely on the content being renderable in a lot of different systems. So it gives that consistency that we've been lacking all along, and that we've had to code to individual platforms to some degree to know that our content is going to work everywhere.
Yeah, good point, Padraig. Thanks for that. We're also reaching the end of our half hour together, but if folks have more questions or you'd like to stick around, feel free to.
Sorry, there is.
Yeah, there is a question we can address. So let's.
About tools to limit the size of QTI packages. I think it's. I'm not sure about tools. I'm not sure about if anyone else knows about such a tool, but to me it goes like everything going in the web, on the internet. It goes with common sense and about optimizing the assets we can have in packages like videos or images or sound clips. We just have to be reasonable. Sometimes it's good to have fallbacks for different formats, but if not needed, if we know we use some commonly used and open supported formats, it's better not to include another version of the same asset with another format.
And I think the other thing worth mentioning is because QTI 3 is built very heavily on top of HTML, then all the standard tool sets used for optimizing HTML pages can be applied to QTI content as well. So tools that optimize image sizes or video sizes will work just as well. And then the QTI specification allows resources to be shared, as you mentioned. So for example, you can have a shared stimulus as well. So if you have something like the students reacting to a passage of poetry, you don't have to repeat the poetry extract in every individual item. You can reference the shared stimulus content from as many items as you like, but no additional size in the package. And I'd imagine as well that the tools will be supporting that as more authoring systems begin to implement QTI 3 export. That's a good opportunity for authoring systems to provide tools to provide optimal packages. And I have to say, I mean, HMH do provide some quite large QTI packages. We have thousands of items and hundreds of tests in them, but we'd still have reasonable package sizes that are just in the sort of multiple megabytes, which shows that you can easily deliver very large QTI content packages with reasonable file size.
Yeah, just to add on to that, the Smarter Balanced is a good example of, each item is, has ASL videos in it and, every kind of support you can imagine. And these packages are, enormous. And it's really up to the delivery platform to deliver just the right amount of content based upon the accessibility needs of the test taker. So, each delivery platform is going to need to sort of determine how much content is required for the individual test taker at the moment of truth when the item is delivered.
All right. Thanks for those answers. Does anyone have any other questions? Okay, not hearing any, and I know we've covered a lot of ground in just a 30-minute presentation window. So as I said, we will be having some more in-depth demonstrations and sharing some more details about QTI 3 in the coming months. So look for some announcements from IMS on that. They'll be both live and then recordings made for them for later viewing as well. So thanks to our presenters and those that attended today. We appreciate your participation and hope you have a good rest of your IMS quarterly meetings or however you might be spending your day.